Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Boujee Astrology, and we are going to take a look at the astrological transits of March 30th to April 5th. We're about to get into April. We're about to get into April. I've been excited for April for a very, very, very long time. I hope y'all are too. Now, we're coming off of arguably what was meant to be the most productive week of the year. Last week, we had our Sun Saturn conjunction. The thing about anything, whenever it comes to Saturn, is it always tells you, he always tells you, when it's time to take care of something, when it's time to handle something, when it's time to deal with something. And a lot of the vibration over the course of the last week that is starting to push us into what we will be dealing with throughout the month of April, which again, that's what we start this week, is pushing something forward. A lot of us went through the last few days feeling very determined to finally get something done. We got to get it clean. We got to get it handled. We got to deal with something. I'm feeling restless and I want to go in a different direction. I want to do something new. Some of us, it wasn't a restlessness and a pull. It was more along the lines you had already accepted something that had the role, the responsibility, the desire had already been there. And it was like stepping into it. I'm the boss now. This is my thing. This is what we're doing. This is my process. This is my procedure. This is my role. This is my title. This is my responsibility. And there was a determination behind it. A lot of us were grabbing a hold of something. And that is why I called last week's episode Bulldogger. Because if you are familiar with anything rodeo terms, it is quite literally wrestling a steer to the ground, grabbing the bull by the horns and wrestling it down. That's not an easy thing to do. It's an accomplishment. And for many people, parts of last week had a bit of an accomplishment to it. We were wanting to achieve something. We were wanting to get something completed. We were wanting to get something ready. We were determined in some type of way. And that was the vibration of the week. We were meant to be productive. We were meant to step into something. We were meant to do something in a specific way. And now it's leading us into April. And this week right here feels like a gateway. And the star of this week, just so everybody is aware, is Venus, in my opinion. It's Venus. Hands down, it's Venus, with special guest star Jupiter based off of how things are going to unfold. Now, why would you say Venus is the star of the week? Well, at the beginning of the week, Venus is going to enter Taurus. Venus is going to go into her own home sign. And Taurus loves things to be comfortable. They want things to feel secure. They want things to feel safe. It's a little bit of a security blanket in the vibration. Is some of the volatility still there? Absolutely. But do we get some level of something that feels good, that feels right, that feels stable, that feels comfortable? It's an illusion of stable. I want to be clear about that because it won't last for very long. But hey, sometimes you just need to have a good night of fun. In this case, it's going to be a couple of weeks, but still, there's a stability whenever it comes to the Taurus vibrations. Stability is a good way to say it. In other ways, it could be stubborn. Do with that part what you will. Some of y'all just going to be stubborn. Some of you are going to be pulled in specific directions to see something this week that has been some way for a long period of time, or based off of last week's energy carrying over, how the productiveness of last week is going to again set something into place for a long period of time. Because Venus going into Taurus, Venus is going into a fixed sign. Fixed signs like stability. They want things to be settled. They want things to last. Everlasting love, everlasting feelings, everlasting farm, legacy, things along these lines. We want things that are going to last. So again, a lot of last week's energy that's carrying us into this, whatever we're starting to push forward through the month of April, we want it to last. Now, again, all of 2026 is becoming accustomed to a new normal. Obviously, we want something to last. So, number one, Venus goes into Taurus this week. Number two, we have a full moon in Libra in the middle of the week, April Fool's Day. How fun is that? The full moon in Libra. What planet rules Libra? Oh, Venus, Venus. So again, we're back to the Venus stuff. We go into a full moon in Libra in a cardinal sign right after the ruler of the full moon goes into Taurus, goes into the sign of stability. Cardinal signs are instigative signs. They like to start stuff. I like to call you shit starters, and y'all know it. And if you have never heard me say that before, you're hearing it now. There's something that is meant to come to a peak. And there is something around the full moon as to why I feel like this week is a gateway. Because again, we're coming off of the most productive week of the year. We're going into a cardinal startup, rev up type of vibration in the full moon, right after Venus goes into a sign of stability, of something meant to last for the long term, something that we need to be comfortable with, need to, but not always going to be. Some people aren't going to like some of the new vibration coming through this week. And that takes me to the third transit as to why I say Venus is the star of this week. By the end of the week, most exact going into the weekend, we're going to go through a square between Pluto and Venus. Now that's going to get really interesting because by that time the moon will be in Scorpio and it will actually create an exact T-square. And it tells me that there's going to be some things that are coming into place that either we're pushing something new that some people are not going to like, because the thing about fixed signs is they don't like change. And I love to make fun of fixed signs because they don't like change. But change is necessary for us to get comfortable with where we're going next. Change is needed. We have to adapt. We have to grow. We have to move towards something that offers stability. And there will be some people that they do not like it. And part of the week, most exact going into the weekend, speaks to either accepting change and allowing something to progress, stop being resistant to it, or because you're stepping into something that feels good, that feels right, that arguably feels stable, there's going to be somebody that has a problem with it. They start pushing their ideals, the old ways of thinking, an old way of doing things. They push some level of judgment, and it feels like a trigger of insecurity. And for some people, whatever this is, you might not even realize that this is going to be an issue. What do you mean you have a problem with me moving to the city, or moving to the farm, or moving here, or doing this, or going to take this job, or being in this relationship? What do you mean? Well, of course I got a problem with it. Some people will be dumbfounded. Others will be accepting. Some will be dumbfounded. But there is an element this week around Venus that also includes triggers. And Pluto square to Venus, arguably, is the hardest of this vibration. Now, Venus is the star of the week, but Jupiter is the special guest. Now, why is that? Now, one of the things that is going to happen this week is we're going to have our third trine between Mercury and Jupiter. Mercury is finally moving again. Therefore, some of the things that we've been sitting on, stewing on, past emotions that we have been dealing with, there will be some kind of reprieve where there's going to be movement afterwards, which takes me to the second part of Jupiter this week. After Mercury hits its trine to Jupiter, Jupiter finally leaves 15 degrees of Cancer, where he's been for basically 2 months. It's been since February, like the beginning of February. It's back before Valentine's Day. I don't remember the exact date. However, as of this week, Jupiter finally gets off of this one area of the sky, which tells me again, there's movement. So if you've been grabbing a hold of something, pushing something forward, trying to get something put into perspective, trying to get something put into order, that order is meant to move forward in a specific direction. If you have accepted a specific kind of role in something, then you were meant to start pushing very, very quickly. stepping into the role, going into those meetings, shaking hands, kissing babies, all the different things that you're supposed to do. Yes, I know it sounds political. I'm not just stuck on the political whenever I'm saying that part, but there is a part of this vibration that speaks to going into a new direction. Not everybody's going to like this new direction, but all of the month of April is getting into something new, a very fast paced energy. And a lot of this week feels like the arrival. It feels like a door opening. It finally feels like the first little steps in getting into a new direction and getting something accomplished. Now, I said something similar in January as what I'm about to say next. And all of January, I kept saying, there's new stuff, there's arrival. Some of it's disruptive, some of it's necessary, but things are coming into light, things are coming into focus. And a lot of the new of January, of whatever it was, also fed into where we're going to be in April. So not all of this is completely brand new. We've been building to this. Now, some of you, the initial energies of who you thought you'd be building with, where you thought you'd be building towards, it ain't the same. And that's because Mercury let us know a lot of different things. And it brought a lot of deep-seated emotions, things that were still deeply bothering us up to the surface for a reason. It's so that way when we start to build something new, we are not carrying the weight of people that don't deserve to be a part of our new normal. It was a cleansing, it was a clearing. And part of the disruptive energy of this week, again, most exact with that Venus-Pluto square, is going to be necessary because there's going to be some people that are left behind. Now, they're not going to be quick to accept that. Some are going to question why that is. And again, when your vibration, your frequency is starting to adjust, you will feel yourself separate from people that are no longer on the same frequency as you. Over the last 6 months, we've had a lot of shakeups to our frequency. We've had a timeline shift. We have had different things pushed to the surface. We've had different things come to light. We've seen differences in people that we had never noticed before. And little by little, the universe has been showing us, let it go, release, this ain't ours, don't do this, stop playing this game. We're going this way. We're going to do this. This is the direction. This is the hope. And what I'm telling you is all of the little monocles up until this point has led us to this gate. It has led us to this door. It has led us to this part of the time frame. And now we're getting deeper and deeper into our new normal as we get into April. We're knocking on the door. We're unlatching something. We're unlocking. We're unlatching. We're doing the different things to make something open up. Once the opening is there, how fast you can move is completely up to you. But what I'm telling you from the beginning is April is fast. It's fast, it's fast, it's fast. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of things going on. And this week is just the first steps. It's the doorway. It's the gate. And the whole idea is that we're getting comfortable very, very quickly with where we're stepping into next. And a lot of that comfort comes from Venus being in her own home sign as we're going through all of the fast-paced energy of everything else that will be going through Aries. Because there's going to be a lot of Aries impulsive momentum as the next few weeks progress. But in some way, shape, or form, we have to be comfortable with just how fast everything starts to unwind. Everything starts to unfold from this point forward. We're back to getting acquainted with the new normal. We're back to getting into the new normal. We're deeper into the water this time. It's not just pinky toe dips anymore. No, no, that stuff is up to our knees. By the time we get to the end of the April, it's going to be up to your belly button, unless you're short. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit higher, but whatever. We don't necessarily need it to be in a point of sinking. That's not what we're talking about right now. But we're getting deeper into where we're at. So I hope you're ready. We're going forward. Open the door. Let's get into the week. Okay, let's get into the transits. All right, we're going to get into Monday. Now, we're starting today with the moon being in Virgo. And the thing is, this is actually how we ended Sunday. But after the moon went into Virgo, there was not a whole lot going on. Like literally, there were no transits after the moon went into Virgo on Sunday. So that's really interesting because we kind of start in the same way. I wanted to show that part. So I've got this at the 12:30 a.m. Central Standard Time standpoint, and the moon's not aspecting. There's some inconjunctions or quincunxes, and that means not seeing eye to eye. So there can be some restlessness in our brain Sunday late going into Monday and still all throughout the day on Monday. But whenever it comes to a lot of the interactions, you can feel the restlessness, but it's not always going to come through in detail. You'll hear certain opinions that you might not necessarily agree with. You don't necessarily like the actions that everybody is taking, but not everybody is quick to spout it off. There will be elements as to why we could spout some things off, but we're not quick to do a lot of that. Now, after the overnight hours, as we get into the morning time, we are going to have this interesting energy where the moon will hit a conjunction to the south node. And there is a lot of this energy whenever it comes to the moon being in Virgo of some of the things that kind of got awakened last month, roughly, or earlier in the month, during the last full moon, which was exact on March 3rd. So it was not last month yet. We're not in April yet. I apologize. There can be some restlessness in the energy that does tie back to some of the things that got activated back during the full moon eclipse in Virgo. And again, that was the most exact on March 3rd. And we can be coming to terms with some things that we want to release, that we are feeling at peace with, that we are feeling calm with. And there can be one or two things that have to do with the body based off of the moon hitting the conjunction to the south node. But this, given all the other energy at hand, this does not feel huge. It just feels necessary because there has been a big shift in the atmosphere. Now, what was the atmosphere shift? I didn't really cover this in the intro, but I want to remind everybody because it is still kind of active on the screen. And that is over the course of the weekend, we had the sextile between Pluto and Saturn. And this energy right here is still putting a tone into the energy, into the vibration. This is something that we can feel a shift either in the responsibility or in the collective. We're feeling certain things around us, but not necessarily having huge dynamics to it. There can be some additional dynamics, but given the way the rest of the transits are going, I'm not feeling huge dynamics per se. I feel like this is going to have an aftermath energy with that Pluto sextile to Saturn. Again, this was the most exact over the weekend, but we are still in it going into Monday. We're going to keep this going at 11:01 a.m. So I got this from 10:30. Venus is at 29:58. You can see that here. Bump it one more hour to 11:30. And Venus is now in Taurus. She has arrived. And for a lot of people, this will speak to an arrival this week. And I want to be clear about that. Venus going into a new sign, most specifically a home sign, the way that she is right now. This can speak to the arrival of something or someone new, but this new is got a comfort level to it. Some of y'all are going to be meeting some people for the first time, but immediately there's a comfort to them. There's something that feels very, very hopeful. So if you have new people that are coming through, new appointments, you run into somebody at the coffee shop, and there's some kind of instant energy of like, oh, I just really like your vibe. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Just so everybody's aware, Venus is now in Taurus, and anywhere between this first week, so I'm not just including the 30th right now, anywhere in this first week, we can have an arrival of something or someone new based off of this energy. Okay. Moving along, moving along. Oh, right around lunchtime, between 12:30 and roughly about 2:45. So I've got it written as 3 p.m., but I got it at 1:30 right here. Here's Mercury, 12 degrees, 42 minutes, hitting its opposition to the moon, 12 degrees, 34 minutes. Now, again, Mercury rules Virgo. The last time we had a lunation in Virgo was the Virgo eclipse, but Mercury was retrograde at the time. So a lot of the energy that we were dealing with before had some caveats to it. There wasn't a complete clarity with everything at that time based off of Mercury being retrograde. Now we have a little bit more clarity. Might not be the best clarity, but we do have a little bit more clarity in the energy just because Mercury is now direct and he is retracing areas of the sky. Many of us are going to have some conversations on Monday about some things that have recently changed, opinions, plans, documentation, contracts, something along the lines that have recently changed. And it is amplified right in this moment when the moon hits this opposition to Mercury, as you're seeing right here. So really, just don't be surprised by some of the conversations that you're having on Monday. This transit is the most exact, again, right around the lunchtime hours, so between 12:30 and 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Can it manifest sooner than that? Sure. Can it manifest later in the afternoon and going into the evening time? Absolutely. This just happens to be when it is the most exact. The moon hitting that opposition to Mercury, it still can be activating parts of the eclipse energy. This is literally right around the same degree that we did have the Virgo eclipse. So I feel like a lot of the energy of the last month, because again, the Virgo eclipse was March 3rd, and now we're having this moon Mercury opposition at basically the same degree that we were having the eclipse at earlier in the month. There is a shift in opinion, again, of how something has changed and how we're going to go from here. And as we continue to progress throughout the week, this is going to make more sense. Now, considering this moon Mercury opposition is happening right after Venus went into Taurus, for some people, the change is also the arrival. For some people, it's two separate things. So just be prepared for that. Okay. Now, as we get into the evening time, between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this now at 7:30, Jupiter, 15 degrees, 43 minutes, is going to hit a sextile to the moon. You can see this right here. Jupiter, again, it is the doctor, the guru, the teacher. Some of us are needing advice. Some of us are giving advice. It's one of those things that's meant to be supportive. It's meant to be helpful. Now, what I will say in this vibration is because we do kind of have that trifecta energy in the sense of like the moon is in Mercury sign, Mercury's in Jupiter sign, Jupiter's in the moon sign. Some of the dynamics as to how we are going through Monday can again be about levels of change and how that change is starting to unfold more things. But even in the start, we could still need support. We could still need advice. Some of us can still be giving support to other people about the changes that they are making. And that can be a big part of this vibration. Now, the other thing that I will say about some of the conversations of the day through Monday can lead to foreshadowing as to what's going on later in the week. But this kind of foreshadowing would be like, hey, are you going to go to so-and-so's for the weekend? Are you going to do this for the holiday? Because here in the if you're of the Christian Catholic faith, it is Easter weekend. So for some people, there is going to be a holiday to it. And there can be confirmation of a future encounter or a future meeting, but not necessarily always about that new arrival, but still be an energy that it speaks to about the recent changes that are starting to unfold. Again, Jupiter's sextile to the moon is the most exact between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. You can kind of see that right here. And after that, we do not have a whole lot going on. The moon is still going to be in Virgo going into the next day. So our heads can still be very focused on specific things as we go into the 31st. The moon will be in Virgo most of the day. And whenever it comes to Tuesday, there is not a whole lot in the dynamic. There's really only two transits going on. Now, I will say this first one might come with disruption. It might come with tension. It might come with arguments. It might come with something. Why am I saying that? Because the moon in Mercury sign, in Virgo, is hitting this opposition to Mars. Mars, the god of war. Mars, who is hosting Neptune, Saturn, the sun, Chiron. There's a lot of things going on in Mars ruled signs. So some of us might be hearing of a disruption. Some of us might be encountering a disruption. So coming into work and they're seeing, either finding out something has happened or meeting with someone and how they're disgruntled about something. So it's either like discovering or hearing about a new disruption or having to deal with the disruption because, again, the moon is hitting the opposition to Mars. Now, it might not be completely disruptive in the negative sense. The thing about Mars is it's always disruption. Sometimes it's chaotic disruption. Other times it's pivotal. If we are not dealing with any level of chaotic change around disruption, it could be more pivotal. It could be something, again, around the actions that we are taking from here, what we have recently done, that new role, that new responsibility, and in some ways, like a plan of action based off the changes that we're already in. Not that we're trying to make a set of new ones right this minute. We have already been making new changes. A lot of things are kind of bleeding over from last week. And all of these changes are, again, kind of leading us to a gateway. It's leading us to a door. It's pushing us into something. And we are building towards a full moon. It's just not yet. We're a day before it. But there still can be certain interactions as the day progresses, most exact in the morning time, that are with, about, or around some level of disruption or tension or fighting or arguments, because the moon is making this opposition to Mars, our god of war. He does what he does. Anyways, moving along. After the moon's opposition to Mars, we're not getting anything else until the evening time. This next thing that goes the most exact goes exact between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. So I got this now at 7:30. And what we have right here is Uranus is going to hit a trine to the moon. Now, we don't have a whole lot of stuff going on with Uranus this week. We are in our final weeks of Uranus in Taurus, though. So some of us, if we do not have an arrival based off of Venus, which many of us will have an arrival, we might be hearing of something else unexpectedly, excitingly, that is about to come to a close, that is about to wrap up, is in the process of wrapping up. And that can be exciting for some people, or there could be some exciting, unexpected news about something that will be beginning later on, something that we are about to do, but not necessarily doing right in this moment, because again, we got a few weeks before Uranus is going to change signs. It's not quite a month, but it is at least a good 3 weeks away. So there is energy that is still kind of got to wrap up part of the vibration. And whenever we're talking about the Uranus wrap up, we are literally wrapping up something that goes back all the way to 2018, because that's how long this has been. We are closing out an 8-year cycle with Uranus. And this is our first little baby transit that talks about, hey, just so you know, I'm probably going to make this change. I'm probably going to do something else. I'm probably going to be doing X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, going in some direction. And for some people, it could be disruptive. For other people, it feels a little bit more exciting. It feels like it has a little bit more noise. And it feels like whatever this is going to, again, speak to elements of a long-term change, because Uranus is still in Taurus. Okay, moving along. After Uranus is trine to the moon is going to go void for a couple hours at 9:51 p.m. So I got this going from 9:30. Here's the moon at 29:48 to 10:30. The moon is now in Libra. And once the moon goes into Libra, we are now in full moon energy. Are we in the full moon immediately upon the moon going into Libra? No, but we are still in full moon energy as soon as this part starts. Now, we have to pay attention to the fact that this is going to be a full moon in Libra right after Venus, the ruler of Libra, changed signs. For a lot of people, whenever it comes to this energy around this full moon, there is an arrival based off Venus changing signs. This is a full moon in a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs are, again, instigative signs. They start things. This vibration over the next few days feels like a bigger part of the gateway, something opening up, something arriving, something that is meant to help us in restoring some level of balance, some level of fairness. We still have a lot of volatility based off of everything that's going on in Aries, but we still need some semblance of stability. And over the course of the next few days, there feels like an attempt to open the doors towards stability, fairness, what's right for other people, what's right for everyone, what's going to give some idea of balance in so many areas that have not been balanced because of everything that's been going on in the collective. We're shooting for the start, keyword there, the start towards some level of stability. Are we going to get stability overnight? Absolutely not. There's going to be some things that open up in this full moon because, again, this week's vibration, especially around the full moon in Libra, feels like a gateway. It feels like something opening up. It feels like something that is meant to start, that is going to impact a lot of people and last for a long period of time. So let's keep going. Let's keep going with this mess. There you go. Okay. The moon is now in Libra. Yay. And then nothing else. And then nothing else. We're going to get into the first. And our first transit on the first is going to happen the most exact between 1 and 3 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this now at 1:30. The moon is at 1 degrees, 56 minutes, hitting this opposition to Neptune. There can be something new coming through that is confusing. It's not entirely clear. Some of us can be encountering someone that doesn't act entirely clear or doesn't act entirely honest. Sometimes that Neptune stuff, it can be the lies, the fraud, the deception. For other people, it's the imagination or it's the manifestation or it's things we're trying to put into the universe. And then for other people, it's a lot of confusion and unclearness and not entirely sure what's going on. If you go to bed Tuesday night into Wednesday, just kind of either in la la land of whatever's coming through, so that manifestation potential energy or the dream potential energy, that would make sense. If you're going to bed, you're like, this is super confusing. I don't even know how this happened. That's fair. The moon's hitting the opposition to Neptune, and Neptune doesn't like to be clear about anything. Okay, let's be fair about that. Some of us might have elements of nostalgia, something from the past, someone from the past coming back around. And again, we have a lot of things this week that speaks to arrivals. And some of us might be just confused by how it all comes through. It's like a butterfly effect situation of like, I only came here for milk, but then I ended up going to 2 more places, had to stop for gas. And as soon as I stopped for gas, I haven't seen you in forever. That type of thing. It's like a weird roundabouts that it doesn't even make sense of how you got here. But yeah, hey, blast from the past. How are you? Okay, keep it going. After the moon's opposition to Neptune, we don't start to get into anything else until we get into the morning time. The next 2 things are going to happen simultaneously. And I've got this now at 7:30 because this is kind of the start of this energy. Now, if you did have a mood, a tone, something that you were feeling over the weekend because of the Pluto Saturn sextile, this feels like it's whenever it's more likely to come out. Now, let's kind of talk about that. What's going to happen in the morning time is between 7 and 10 a.m. I'm just giving a bigger window here. This again sets a mood for a lot of people. And some people are going to be coming into work or stepping into something or discovering a recent change in roles and responsibility and seeing a shift in the power dynamics. That can be a good thing. That can be kind of rough. Don't entirely know quite yet. And again, this week is a gateway. We are in full moon energy. Some of us, that first, step, the first meetings of your new role, like, okay, so starting this week effectively, I'm the boss. So-and-so's the boss. This is how it's going to go down. This is the rules, the process, the procedure moving forward from here. And it feels like for a lot of us, Wednesday morning, we've got some really serious toned meetings, appointments, ideas, plans, something going on, because the moon is going to go into a trine with Pluto. You can see that right here. Pluto's at 5 degrees, 13 minutes. And simultaneously, the moon starts its opposition to Saturn. Now, there's really kind of a 30-minute window between like these windows. So Pluto's trine to the moon is the most exact between 7 and 9 a.m. The opposition to Saturn is most exact between 7:30 and 9:30 a.m. I would rather just say between 7 and 10 a.m., just kind of give a nice big window there. We can have certain meetings, certain things that are going on, things around the boss, things around the elders, things around certain power dynamics. Some people are literally going to be dealing with that mundane aspect of like, there's something wrong with the plumbing and we got to dig for a plumber. It's going to happen sometimes. Um, they're supposed to be in charge of something. They're supposed to be taking care of something. You're trying to talk to the landlord and they're not necessarily telling you what you want. This can be harsh in some ways, especially if it is a carryover from whatever was happening over the weekend. The moon hitting the opposition to Saturn is very, very loud. The trine to Pluto, not as loud, but considering the Pluto Saturn sextile again was exact over the weekend, this can be a carryover vibration of certain elements of the weekend that can speak to like raw harshness and power dynamics, but not everybody's got the raw harshness and power dynamics. Again, it feels like there's some very serious toned meetings, conversations with the boss in the new roles, with and around the elders, this type of thing, the shift in responsibility and how that's carrying forward from here with the moon coming into this play. And it does really, again, set the tone for the entire day because we don't have any other transits until the evening time. And what do we get in the evening time? We get the full moon. That's what we get in the evening time. So between 8 and 10 p.m., I got this now at 8:30. The full moon is actually going to be the most exact at 9:12 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I have the sun 12 degrees, 19 minutes. Here's the moon, 11 degrees, 59. So we're right in this type of vibration right here. This is a full moon in a cardinal sign. This is a full moon loosely squaring Jupiter. Now, I say loosely because it's roughly about 3.5 degrees away. However, we're going to have dynamics around Jupiter after this full moon. Because remember, I said Venus is the star of the week, but Jupiter is kind of a special guest. Yeah, there you go. Just be aware of that part. The square of this full moon to Jupiter adds layers to this dynamic that tells me even if it's something that's not necessarily big in your individual life and it's bigger more in the collective, whatever is impacting the collective is impacting more than one person. It's going to be impacting the masses in some way. And again, this is the start of something. This is the gateway. This is something opening up and coming out. And for a lot of people, there is still something that can speak to an arrival because Venus did just go back into Taurus. Now, again, this is supposed to be something that offers support. This is supposed to be something that is offering stability. But your perspective of stability and my perspective of stability does not have to be the same thing. This is something that's meant to be fair for a lot of people. This activation, this peak of vibration. But just because it doesn't happen exactly at the moment of the full moon doesn't mean that it's still not in play, because this vibration is in play all week long, especially once even the moon goes into Scorpio. And I'll explain that as we continue. But do not be surprised as to like what your motivations are, what you feel shifting, the opinions, the moods, the dynamics you see feeling shifting around you, because we're meant to have these kinds of shifts. So just be aware of that. The full moon perfects in that evening time. After that full moon perfects, there ain't a whole lot more going on. We're going to go into the second. And in the overnight hours going into April 2nd, between 3 and 5 a.m. Central Standard Time, this is where Jupiter will hit the exact square to the moon. So you can see this part right here. Here's Jupiter, 15 degrees, 52 minutes. Here is the moon, 15:39. It goes exact closer to 4 a.m., but this is fine. Now, in the overnight hours, there could be something that impacts the mind, that impacts the memories, that impacts the focus, that impacts the ambition. It impacts how we're moving from here. And again, by the end of the week, Jupiter will finally be off the 15-degree mark. So it speaks an extra layer to there's going to be movement into something new finally after this week. This week is a gateway. This is the start. Certain things are opening up. Some of us are going to have some wild energy when it especially comes to our dreams in the overnight hours. Some of us are going to have certain things that are being pressed upon us based off of what's going on in someone's health. Again, the doctor, the guru, the teacher. Some of that stuff last week was a whole different focus on somebody's health. It can still be a part of the energy here. Now, what's interesting to me is as this is progressing, there are other energies that are starting to just kind of get accepted. Now, this is not as easily seen because what we have over the course of the morning time is a contra-ANTISCIA between Mars and Saturn, but it's still playing off of the full moon energy. So a contra-ANTISCIA is basically a secret conjunction. And there is something here that is like getting agreed upon that we are accepting in some way, but it's not being accepted in an open sense. It's kind of in a secret sense. It's behind the scenes, behind closed doors. It's one of those things that we are accepting something or we have decided on something, but we're not telling everybody yet. But we have an internal part of this vibration in the overnight hours of April 2nd going into the actual morning time. And some of us are going to wake up, just in all fairness, we're going to wake up on the 2nd, again, feeling a motivation, feeling an acceptance, feeling a click in ways that we just can't put into words. It's just waking up going, yep, this is what I'm doing today. Why? Because it just feels right. It feels like it's time. It feels like what we're supposed to be doing. And you're not wrong. And for a lot of people, this is meant to be an idea of a solution in some way, or it's meant to find a voice towards getting something worked through that has been a bit of an emotional roller coaster in the past. Now, why am I saying that part in particular? Well, because of what's happening next. In the late hours of the evening time on the 2nd, you can see this right here, the moon, 25 degrees, 31 minutes, is going to hit this opposition to Chiron. So you can see that right here. This is the most exact between 10 p.m. and midnight. This is going to set a tone for a lot of people as they're going to bed. Now, again, Chiron is the wounded healer. The idea is that we want to find solutions even if we can't fix everything ourselves. Some of us are going to be talking to other people about what has hurt us in the past that we haven't been able to fix. Some of us are going to be trying to find solutions to something and hearing how other people have fixed things in the past. This is something about the voice. This is something about our opinion. This is something that we're wanting to work through. Not all of us are going to be hearing things that we've ever heard before. Many of us are going to be hearing something that we didn't know was going to be a thing or had never considered as an option before. It is going to be something new in a lot of ways. In other ways, you can be at the creation of a new wound. Now, this isn't as clear, but the reason I'm saying this part is because the moon is in Venus's sign, and Venus is starting to enter her square from Pluto. So here's Pluto, 5 degrees 15. Here's Venus, 4 degrees 16. We're 1 degree away from the exact. And whenever the exact comes into play as we get into the weekend, the moon will be involved. So there is something that can even be foreshadowing of, again, we're trying to put some more changes out there. We're trying to make something better. We're trying to do something new. We're trying to do something that feels good and feels comfortable, but not everybody's comfortable with what the new is, because again, there's some signs out there that they don't like change. And I get to make fun of them for it. Okay, moving along. It is now the 3rd. The moon is going to be in Libra all through the overnight hours, but the moon is void in Libra until about 7:11 a.m. Now, I want to do this next thing kind of together. So we got 2 things that are happening here. One, we are wrapping up the moon in Libra, but simultaneously, we're starting this trine between Mercury and Jupiter. And I think it's very, very telling that we get this Mercury-Jupiter trine. And this is the trine that afterwards Jupiter starts to move off of the 15-degree mark and finally starts to move into a new direction, finally starts to regain some steppage and regain some degrees and starts moving towards something. But it feels like there's something that needs to come out. And it makes the most sense that if for some people, there is something coming to a close based off of the moon being in Libra. But this still goes exact right as the moon is going into Scorpio. And I think that plays a bigger role once the moon goes into Scorpio. Now, there's something that really starts to unfold, and a lot of emotions and a lot of like underlying things based off of what got brought to the surface through the Mercury retrograde, but not all of us have said some of those things yet. Some of us are still on the verge of something. And anytime I see the moon goes through Scorpio and we have heavy water transits elsewhere, it tells me that there's going to be some things that come to the surface. So this is going to be a very interesting holiday weekend for some people. There's going to be things that come to the surface that people have been sitting on for a very, very long time. And some of it is because at one point they had forgot that it was even an issue. But now there's something pushing it back to the surface and therefore pushing things up to the surface that we didn't know was an issue. And there's a layered reason why I'm saying this, but once the moon goes into Scorpio, we are going to have some deep-seated emotions that are coming out, but they're not going to be as new as everybody wants to think that they are. Some of them just got activated in the full moon in Libra. Others got activated because over the course of the last few weeks, Mars was also in Pisces during that Mercury retrograde. So for a lot of us, we are now ready to take an action or give some level of a reaction based off of all the emotional disruption that has occurred through the month of March. And that emotional disruption can also be a fueling with how fast we move forward once we get deeper into April. So it's going to be a very interesting weekend for a lot of people. And some of the things that you start to hear about whenever it comes to a lot of people's emotions, you're not going to anticipate it. You're not going to expect it. And you're not going to have a good way to combat it. And for a lot of people, that means that there's going to be a certain amount of responsibility that you're not going to be willing to take. And again, there's something about this weekend that speaks to layers of triggering insecurities. So let's continue this. Happy Easter, everybody. Sorry about that. The moon is now in Scorpio. Now, the other thing that is going on here is we do have another form of the trifecta. What do I mean by that? The moon is now in Mars' sign. Mars has been in Jupiter's sign for a while. And then Jupiter, of course, has been in the moon sign since last summer. So we have this energy of all the water signs working together, but also all of the rulers of these water signs working in each other's signs. Oh, the emotions as they come to the surface are going to be real throughout the weekend. And there is going to be something that speaks to insecurity or something coming to light that not everybody likes the change of what we're doing. Not everybody's going to like the reaction of everything that is going on. And that actually makes the most sense going into the evening time. So please be aware if we're feeling insecurity or you're seeing other people and their levels of insecurity, there is a reason why. And I got this now at 5:30 because this is the most exact that you're going to be able to see it. So we got a couple things going on. Between 5:24 and 5:43 p.m., Pluto is going to go through his exact square to Venus. You can see that right here. Venus is at 5:15. However, in this exactness, the moon comes into play and hits an opposition to Venus. It hits a square to Pluto. And for a lot of people, whatever starts to be talked about in regards to the changes, in regards to everything that we're trying to do, in the things that we feel the most confident in right now, and what we're trying to be comfortable in, with where we're going next, whatever news is coming through is likely to trigger insecurity. But for a lot of people, this is big interactions between multiple people. And it's a heck of a transit going into a holiday weekend. And some of you are going to be in situations where you're talking about with your friends, with your family, like what your plans are next, what you're trying to do now, what's going on, what this has felt like at your new job. And there's going to be somebody else that either comes through that pushes the insecurity because the moon will be squaring Pluto. And the moon is in Pluto's sign. So that doesn't really help anything. But simultaneously, the moon will hit this opposition to Venus. This vibration of Friday evening feels like an interaction of multiple people, especially for the fixed signs. So Leo risings, Aquarius risings, Scorpio risings, Taurus risings. I don't care how much you do not like change. There's going to be some buttons pushed. If you are not liking the change, then it's your buttons. If you're making the change, just expect not everybody's on your team. So just be aware of that. But this T-square energy feels like multiple people involved. And again, we have a lot of things that speak to some of the emotions that have been disrupted over the course of the last month. finding ways to the surface, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. So let's continue. Now, I want to also show you Jupiter. Again, we had that trine between Mercury and Jupiter in the morning time. And then as we get into this evening time, Jupiter goes from the 15 degrees, 59 minutes to again, finally getting to 16 degrees. There it is, 11:30. Here's Jupiter at 16. There are elements of this energy that finally speak to direction and progress. We are at a gateway this week. From this point forward, there will be a lot of things that can speak to steps forward, things that we're going to be comfortable with, even if other people aren't comfortable with our changes. That's fine. But Jupiter finally getting off that 15-degree mark also speaks to layers of progress, things moving forward. And again, after we get through this week, April gets a lot faster from here. So we just got to get through the emotional stuff first. And that's this part of the month. Okay, let's keep it going. We're going to get into the 4th. You can see that right here. There is not a whole lot of transits to the 4th. So I think that's going to be helpful for a lot of people. Most of what's going to happen is not going to actually happen until the afternoon. But that doesn't mean that people aren't feeling things or they're not thinking about things from the past or deep-seated things or deep-seated thoughts, deep-seated emotions, psychological thoughts, psychological emotions, trying to like understand why somebody's acted the way that they have or what's been going on in that level of an encounter. But then also coming to terms internally with something about the energy that speaks to what we want to start, because we have a lot of things that speak to starts throughout the month. But not all of us can start something at the same time. Some people can. You can start it as soon as you want to, but other people, you got to wait for an effective date. You got to wait for the training. You got to wait for something. But we can still feel an antsiness based off of parts of what we're waiting for. Now, of the 2 transits that we will have over the course of Saturday, that starts to activate between 1:30 and 6:30 p.m. And this is the first one. Basically, between 1:30 and 3:30, I got it at 2:30. The moon, 15 degrees, 56 minutes, is in a trine from Jupiter. So Jupiter's now at 16.2. The moon is about to hit the 16-degree mark. So we have this first little element of Jupiter retracing steps and getting some speedway over an area that he's already been, trying to put something into motion, trying to move forward with something simultaneously. As Jupiter goes through its trine to the moon will also start its trine with Mercury. Now, the Mercury-Jupiter trine was the most exact on on Friday, but the moon comes here now on Saturday and kind of reactivates it whenever it goes through this part. And we have this grand trine energy of all the water signs. Water flows, emotions to emotion, things that we want to start, things that we're willing to release and let go of, and things that have been sitting there for a very, very long time. There's a process of emotions. And this is going to be a very interesting holiday weekend for a lot of people, because if you've been holding on to stuff from the past, and then you end up seeing the 1 or 2 family members that triggers the insecurities, hello, everybody, it's going to get real interesting for some people. However, if you don't have a lot of insecurities, if the emotional stuff of the Mercury retrograde was not nearly as impactful for you, then that's a good thing. But this is actually a reactivation of a transit that has already occurred before. But now we finally have progressive energy. So even if you have some people with their emotional turmoil, the emotional distress of what they're dealing with, it's not going to be something that we linger on for a while. And there'll be a lot of people that are more willing to move away, walk away, and not deal with certain issues. Now, what I want to bring up in this moment right here is, if you notice, the sun is now starting its square to Jupiter. Now, this is not going to go exact until the 5th. It's going to go exact on Sunday. But some of the people, whenever it comes to what we've been feeling for a long time, you're going to say certain things that you guys are feeling, and other people are going to be very, very dismissive. And the dismissive part can even arrive some of the challenges of like, I'm just going to move forward in my own way, and I'm not going to deal with you anymore. I'm not even going to deal with this issue. For other people, it's not that it's going to be dismissive. There's going to be some people that are just confused, of like, I've never heard of this before. I can't wait to see how it turns out. and it can feel like a motivation. So it's not all going to be negative. Some people, it's going to be hearing about things, again, of how we're going to go from here. We're going to be hearing things where people are feeling emotionally fueled. And it doesn't have to be negative for everybody. For some people, it's just me like, yeah, everything's going well. About to start school, about to start this new job, just waiting on the training to pick up. Well, I didn't even know they were hiring. I've never heard of this kind of job. I've never done this before. Some people are going to be doing some things or hearing about things they've never done before. And it doesn't come with judgment. It comes with support that we can't easily define. There's layers to get to that, but not everybody's having a bad weekend. So let's be clear about that. And again, this is all tied to the sun starting its square to Jupiter. It's going to go exact more on the 5th, but this activation of this grand trine of Mercury being direct and finally taking over different areas of the sky, Jupiter being now direct and taking over new areas of the sky, and the moon, of course, is always direct, because if the moon ever goes retrograde, then our entire planet has a problem. Just being real. All right, we're going to keep it going. We're going to get into the 5th. Now, our first transit of the day on Sunday is not actually going to happen until brunch time. So you can kind of get that kind of perspective. Between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., so I got this now at 11:30, the moon is going to come in and hit a trine to Mars. Now, remember, we have this little trifecta thing going on. Mars is in Jupiter's sign. Jupiter's in the moon's sign. The moon right now is in Mars's sign. And Mars is starting to wrap up its trip through Pisces. So there can be things in this vibration of like, I'm not doing this again, or I'm wrapping something up. I'm willing to let something come to a close. Or again, we're talking about our plans of what we're going to be doing, what we're about to start, where our motivations are. And the only reason I'm saying that level of motivation is because, yes, Mars is wrapping up its trip through Pisces, and we're just about a week away from it going into Aries. So some people can be, again, coming to terms with the fact that it needs to end. And if we're dealing with the ending, like the ending is in the moment. In other ways, it's not dealing with the ending per se. It's like, I'm wrapping these things up because this is about to begin. I'm about to move. I'm about to do this. And there can be this element of like, oh yeah, I'm just getting ready for XYZ. I'm just getting ready to go. I'm so excited for the trip. I'm so excited for this. There's a bigger plan unfolding. And for some people, again, when we get into the morning time, we can be talking about something disruptive that is coming to a close. And there's more than one element throughout the day on Sunday that speaks to the coming to the close. But not everybody has things coming to a close. And there's a lot of people that are going to be able to push some things into a new direction. They're pushing some things forward, or they're just excited about what they're about to do, and they can't get it done quite yet. This is not a day of a lot of pushing forward, but the idea and the mental capacity around the forward, the planning of the forward, not so much the running of the marathon. Okay, the doorway is opening this week, but we are not in full gear. Let's be fair. All right, let's keep this going. As we get into the afternoon between 3:30 and 5:30 p.m., so I got this now at 4:30, the moon, 28 degrees, 59 minutes, is hitting this opposition to Uranus. And again, we are wrapping up Uranus in Taurus. And this speaks to, again, an extra layer. Some of us are very, very excited, or we're hearing things unexpectedly that are about to begin, but they're not starting yet. Other people are looking at some things that we're just kind of, I'm just wrapping it up. We got a few more boxes to pack, just a couple little bitty things over here. And it's not that you're real big on the start of something. It's just you're very, very aware that you're wrapping some things up, or something is coming to a close. And again, this part speaks to the layers of like whatever's coming to a close has probably been something that's lasted for a long period of time. Okay. The moon hits this opposition to Uranus, and throughout the rest of the day, the moon's going to go void until about 6:32 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this now to 7:30, and the moon is going to go into Sagittarius. Now, the thing is, the moon does not start making aspects to a bunch of things until right after midnight. So I'm going to end it here with the moon being in Sagittarius. But I'm just going to bring up that usually when the moon goes into Sagittarius, there's a hopeful vibration. And considering whenever the moon goes into Sag, it goes into mutual reception, where it's just Jupiter in the moon sign, the moon and Jupiter sign, no trifecta. It's just mutual reception. It tells me that more and more of the steps that we're taking in this new direction as we get to the very end of the week, are coming together in ways that we hadn't anticipated. They're working together in ways that we hadn't thought of before. People are supporting us that we didn't even realize were going to support us. We didn't realize that they were on our team. Now, part of that plays out into Sunday evening. More of that part of the vibration is going into like Monday, Tuesday. But that doesn't mean that we still don't have a hopefulness by the time we get to the end of the weekend. It's just the first part of the weekend. That Friday, Saturday time, that's not fun. The moon going into Scorpio can bring a lot of things to the surface. But the good thing about this time of the moon in Scorpio is we don't have the same energy that we've had the last few times. Jupiter is no longer retrograde. Mercury's retrograde is over with. The last time the moon was in Scorpio, there was something about that double whammy of those other two retrogrades that was just bringing up a lot of ickiness from the past. Well, we're kind of done with that. We don't have the reopening of constant wounds right now. We can have elements of things that bring up insecurities, but a lot of those insecurities that are being tested right now are because sometimes whenever you start to step into something new, the universe puts little tests out there going, hey, are you really committed to this? Yes, I actually am. Then good. Go forward from here. Just know that some people are not going to support you. Some people do not go with you, and that is okay. Not everybody from the past is meant to go with you. And there's one or two lingering energies that we haven't let it go. We haven't released it. We haven't told them to stop contacting us. We haven't dealt with the situation that in some way, shape, or form can come through this week. And it just feels like it's the most exact right after the full moon going into the weekend while the moon is in Scorpio. But then again, whenever we get to Sunday evening and that moon gets out of Scorpio, there's some hopefulness there. And that hopefulness will carry us into the next week. And when we go into the next week, we're going to have dynamics towards more shifts in the new, more actions towards the new, and more pushes in specific directions that will continue all throughout the month of April. And April is going to be a very fast month. It's going to be a very busy month. And by the time we get to the end of the month, some of y'all are going to be like, my head is spinning. What happened? Well, we got out of March. Honestly, every time I was meditating on the time frame going into this year, I was like, okay, January brings up a lot of new. February feels a little bit stagnant. It feels like we get stuck in a lot of conversations, a lot of long-term plans. We do make some commitments, but then March is March. And then we pick back up on everything in April. That is what the entirety of this timeline has felt like to me. Well, we're going into April. There's going to be a lot of new in April. And this week feels like a gateway. It feels like things are unlocking, things are opening up, and we get to start to move. Some people will move faster than others. Some of you are not going to move as fast as you want. Sometimes we have to manage our expectations. You cannot conquer Rome in a day. There has to be strategy. There has to be planning. There has to be building. There has to be material. There has to be knowledge. There has to be a lot of things to conquer and have control of certain things. We do start to build. And this week feels like the door is opening to going and grabbing the materials, to doing whatever we can do to start in the new direction. It's just going to be a matter of once we get the material, once we get everything that we need, I'm telling you, things are going to move very, very fast from here. This week feels like a door opening. This week feels like a gateway. It feels like there are going to be arrivals based off of Venus going into Taurus. For some of us, the arrivals are going to come with tests because of that square with Pluto. We're going to finally have progress in areas where we've needed progress. And that's because we're going to have Mercury almost out of shadow. That actually doesn't happen until next week, but we're getting really close to that. But Jupiter finally leaving that 15-degree mark. We will start to have movement and progress after the door opens in this week, after the gateway opens. So just know we're here. The whistle is blowing. The doors are opening. Direction is coming. More and more steps into the new normal. Whether you like the new normal or not is a very different conversation. I'm not ready to have that part of the conversation, but there are steps into the new normal. Bottom line, whether you like it or not, this is where we're at now. And one of the top questions I always get is like, is it ever going to feel good again? I was like, we are in volatility and actions and reactions and frustrations and tensions on and off in a roller coaster of vibration, roughly until 2028. That's literally how I feel about it. Something in 2028 starts to stabilize this again. We get glimmers of stability, glimmers of hope, glimmers of support. And Venus going into Taurus this go round is going to be a glimmer, but it will not last forever. So I want to be clear about that. But I'm saying enjoy the good when you have it, while you have it. And after we get through a lot of this movement that we're going to have in April, we're going to get into arguably a stable May, which is going to feel kind of good. So let's enjoy what we have. Let's move while we can, take actions while we can, before anything starts to throw up roadblocks. We have forward momentum. And I will explain just how much momentum when I do the April month ahead podcast episode. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Hit me up with questions. Hit me up with concerns. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.